Do you wanna,
So yeah, why don't we just call it, I'm sure it's updated, so it should.
Steve, not your tech support, you're the superintendent, it's in the day 14, it's your law.
6:35. Does anybody have any additions, changes to the agenda?
No.
Nope.
No agenda questions, all right, any public input, questions? Does anybody want to address the board from the public? Is anybody online?
Oh, I'm not online, so
I
I
will
can't
say,
help with
I
that.
talked to someone recently who said that she's always online, even if we don't see her. So there might be people online, and thank you for being here, people online.
I agree.
All right.
Why wouldn't we see that, sorry,
I
why
don't know.
wouldn't we see them? I'm looking at our tech
If you're
person,
not logged in.
right, but we usually are,
Yes,
Is
no, we
someone-
do see them as, and they have to wait, they wait.
They have to wait, yeah.
okay. I just got confused by that.
On YouTube. It's live on
Yes.
YouTube at any moment.
Okay, so maybe they're watching on YouTube.
Oh, maybe that's it,
So,
okay.
which is awesome.
We have no attendees, so.
So no attendees. All right, so I mean, there's no PTO report, which doesn't surprise me. There's no PTO attendees. All right. First item on the agenda is our 2025-2026 MCS Handbook, to which there are no changes and therefore no approvals are needed.
Trying to keep it simple this year.
That's easy. All right, and then we have I've gone through all this stuff earlier this week. So yes, we've got the donation from the Norwich Conservation Commission in the amount of $750 to help preserve and maintain the pollinator gardens. The contact person is Jessica. Sean, do you have any knowledge of this?
So the, on Gerard Way, near the kindergarten and first grade classrooms, there were originally pollinating gardens. And then when we did the septic work, we had to tear all of that up. And this past year, we got a generous donation to put those pollinator gardens back.
Yay.
So this is perfect.
Awesome. Milkweed.
All right, well, we approve that. We do it. Thank you to the Conservation Commission for that. And our next donation is from the Norwich Women's Club. My eyes. getting old.
Take care.
It's okay.
I've got two pairs.
Down target.
So, yes, we've got so this is the amount here. So these are for the,
Picnic tables.
yes, sorry, these are for the picnic tables, exactly. Okay, so these are which we discussed our last one as well. So these are the 2 picnic tables for the green, which are gonna be a great use. How did we approve this last meeting? Am I going crazy?
I thought we asked for the money amount and I still don't see the money amount.
Okay,
I think that's what happened last time, was we didn't have the money amount and
okay.
I still don't see the money amount.
Sean, do we know if picnic tables are there yet?
Picnic tables have come in, but have not been delivered yet.
All right, perfect. So again, we will thank the Women's Club, the Lions Club, and the PTO for their generosity on these, because as we discussed our last meeting, those are gonna be great additions. All right, on to our first topic, which does require a little bit of discussion. So this is the newly appointed Finance Committee member. I'm sorry, your name, we had emailed back and forth, Steve?
Stephen.
Stephen, okay.
Yes.
So Stephen is very generously, is volunteering as part of the Norwich Finance Committee. Neil had sent me a very detailed, history, which was very helpful on the Norwich Finance Committee. And maybe we can talk about if there's any issues with it. So and you can help too. I'll turn it over to you in a second. The Norwich Finance Committee, along with the Hanover Finance Committee, who has been working, as you guys all know, that's the folks that help us, and they have a meeting, right, and they review the budget on the Hanover side as well as the Dresden side, and it's who's what's her name? Carrie.
It was.
It was
Carrie.
Carrie.
Now it's.
And it's changed
Carrie,
now,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And then it was also the other gentleman over there, but they would always come to our meetings, review the budgets, they would meet, give at least on the Hanover and Dresden side, comments. And then it was never fully functional because it was always supposed to have a Norwich component as well. And the Norwich Finance Committee had disbanded years ago. It had started back up a couple of years ago, and it wasn't part of the school board finance committee. It was just doing some policies and whatnot for the select board. That's when I was doing a little bit of that work. But I think now it's fully reconstituted. And the idea is to both work with the town as well as the school board to both review and give some input on the Norwich budget as well as the Dresden budget from the Norwich perspective. Is that? That's the plan, and then I do know that there's also probably gonna be a little bit of an issue as far as how it's constituted, because I understand that the select board appointed the finance committee. And I'm not sure, I've heard some rumblings that the school board also has to at least part of that process. That's the one thing I don't know. So on one side, that's, Neil, do you want to jump in first on this? Do you have a, maybe, okay.
So I'll give you a little bit more of a historical context as to how we got here, right? So, many years ago, we had a finance committee here in Norwich, and it was an elected body. It was elected by the folks here in Norwich, and it was elected at town meeting. Somewhere along the lines, people discovered that that was illegal, that we couldn't have an elected finance committee. It needed to be a body that was appointed by the select board and school board. So that committee dissolved. When that committee had been operational, it did serve as one of the two, members of the Dresden Finance Committee. So together with the Hanover Finance Committee, they formed the Dresden Finance Committee. And for years, they did what a finance committee would do. They reviewed budgets, they opined on things, and they offered an opinion, around about town meeting day on the budgets. One of the challenges that I think the community had at the time with the finance committee that was the elected body was that.
Sorry, I'm online. Thank you. You can stay as long as you want, but thank you for that.
Yeah, one of the challenges at the time is that we ended up with people that were elected to the position that didn't necessarily have a full understanding of education finance in Vermont. And so a lot of the intricacies and details associated with that. And I think as a result, some of the positions that the finance committee took at the time led to a little bit of friction with the school board because they were making assertions that at times weren't necessarily true. And weren't based on, the reality of the statutes that were in place. When the committee dissolved, the select board and the school board were left with some options because we knew that we would be able to then appoint a body if that was what the two groups desired that they wanted to do, and if that's what the community wanted. We worked together with the select board at that time to come up basically with a memorandum of understanding as to how those appointments would work. And the agreement that we came to was that both bodies would have the ability to appoint members to the finance committee. So it was joint appointments. We then went along with that for a few years, a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years, where we actually had an appointed finance committee. I'm not entirely sure why, but that group sort of fizzled out. And one of the claims at the time from some of the select board members was the reason that composition didn't work was because they felt that perhaps the purview was too large to both oversee the town budget and the school budget. It just wasn't generating enough interested community members to serve in that capacity. So the select board had an idea of, let's just get rid of the MOU. We'll just appoint our own finance committee and they would only have purview over the town budget, not the school budget. A few of us on the school board didn't think that that was a great approach, but that's what the select board decided to do when they basically nullified the MOU and decided that they didn't want to do it anymore. Fast forward a few years, we tried again to reconstitute a finance committee with joint appointment by both select board and the school board, but those discussions never went anywhere. Unbeknownst to me, it sounds like the select board has decided to move forward with trying to reconstitute a finance committee and has found some willing participants in that group, but unfortunately failed to check with the school board on the appointment piece of things. We don't have an MOU in place between the two boards, right? So I would consider it inappropriate for the select boards to appoint a finance committee, giving it a charge that they should oversee the school board's budget. I think that if that's really what we want to do with the finance committee in this town, that we need to return to either the prior MOU or re-engage the select board in some discussions about what a joint appointment would look like and what are some of the, the parameters that we might want to put around, those appointments and the work of that committee. And this is not, I don't want to cast any aspersions against, the folks that have volunteered to step forward. This is not their issue, right? These were people that were fully willing to serve in this capacity, and I applaud them for that. I'm just a little disappointed that the select board did not reach out to the school board at the time that they were thinking about doing this, just to say, hey, we had an MOU in place previously. Let's get back together and discuss reconstituting this finance committee. We did not hear from that body at all, so.
So here we are, small town politics, maybe. I think I'll speak first as the chair, and having watched the Hanover Finance Committee work, the overall idea of it, I think, is a good one, right? They're basically serving as a bridge between the town and the school board and trying to, make sure that when that the town and the select board are aware of what's going on in the school board budget and vice versa. So they seem to have a purview over that. And I think where over there, I don't think is they don't actually approve. They basically review the budgets and make comments on the budgets, but they don't actually.
Purely in advisory capacity.
Purely in advisory capacity. It sounds like here, though, it was at one point, there were.
No, it was
still
the
advisory.
same. It's
Okay.
just, it was an elected body. And that elected body was going out, if I'm remembering correctly, and saying things like, we think you should not support this budget for the following reasons. And in some cases, those reasons weren't entirely, correct. Right.
So how,
And so one of the things that we did when we developed that initial MOU with the select board, in addition to the MOU of how appointments would work, we also developed a separate document that was, what are some of the qualities and qualifications we would look at for people that were interested in serving in this capacity? Do you have experience in budgeting? And so as the boards were interviewing or entertaining the candidates that expressed interest in serving, we had some questions that we would ask to try to, ascertain whether or not people had the skill set that we thought was appropriate for the work that they were about to engage in.
so. First, did you have a comment?
I guess I was gonna ask how it started and what you answered it, so it was new. When did it get announced to people in Norwich or?
Well, see, Neil, if you want to make
Yeah.
you sent me a very nice email saying you were just appointed to this recently and you were just reaching out and looking to start seeing kind of how you could help. And I suggested if you had time, come tonight. Maybe if you want to talk a little bit about what you know about it and who you are, but do a quick introduction and the background from what you're aware of. And then I think probably from here, it probably comes on to me to reach out to the select board to probably resurrect this MOU if we do want to. I mean, I guess but first of all, why don't we stay on that and jump?
Sure. So Stephen Hepburn, resident of Norwich, over on Wallace Farm Road. Have two kids in the town, one 4, a year away from coming from school, one is under 1. Was recently appointed to the Norwich Finance Committee, which is Norwich Town Select Board Advisory Committee. And then within the committee was elected as the chair of the committee. And some of the stuff that we're doing right now is just trying to understand and unpick the history, what is in place, what isn't in place, what might work, what could work, and how things are going. And so I think, Neil, to your point, my understanding is the finance committee that was not under the MOU, so the more recent one, was never formally disbanded. It just went down to 1 member and so was non-active. More recently, we're now back to 5 members, plus the town treasurer. The select board did adjust our charge, and the charge given to us from the select board does reference school budgets for the town of Norwich and the Dresden budget. So at the moment, we're just trying to unpick all of that, understand if there is still anything in place that we should be, reviewing, working to, talking about, or if there's nothing in place, and if we're starting from fresh and we're trying to figure out what it might look like, if anything. I think when it comes to the school budget sides, it was shared with me a historical article of incorporation of the Dresden School Board, which references the Dresden Finance Committee, which says it's combined with the Hanover and the Norwich Finance Committee. I'm assuming that Norwich Finance Committee is currently referring to our committee, rightly or wrongly. I don't know if it's still in the articles of incorporation, and I don't know if there's any mention in the Norwich School Board article of incorporation anywhere. So that's essentially where we're at. I'm happy to give more information or answer questions on what we're trying to do directly with the select board. But when it comes to the school boards and the school budgets, we're just basically trying to find out what is out there, where everybody stands. Can we be helpful? If so, how?
And I would just note, if people haven't seen it, the approved minutes of the April 9th Norwich Select Board meeting replace the charge of the Finance Committee and say the Norwich Town Select Board may invite the Finance Committee to advise on the creation of annual budgets for the town of Norwich, Marion Cross Elementary, and together with the Hanover Finance Committee on the Dresden School District budget. Finance Committee may provide research into financial matters related to the budget as requested by the Norwich Town Select Board and renders non-binding advisory recommendations for action or non-action by the Norwich Town Select Board. And the minutes reflect a unanimous vote. There's evidently a comment at the time, a public comment, asking how the Finance Committee will relate to the school boards, but the minutes do not reflect the content or answer of that question.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem to mention that they would act in an advisory capacity to the school board. That they would get information about the budget, but not advise us, correct?
I mean, I don't want to parse it. I know there's a long and colorful history of council advising the select board. When I read it, it just says the town select board may invite the finance committee to advise on the creation of annual budgets. That sentence to me is ambiguous, advise whom on what. And then on bottom, it says, and it may provide research into financial matters related to the budget as requested by the Norwich Town Select Board and render opinions on action or non-action by the select board. It seemed a little to summarize Neil's comments. I think when I read this, it's a blinking yellow light. I don't know exactly what it's telling me to do given the traffic situation. But it would appear, my best guess is, hey, this is the select board's committee to advise the select board, but could also potentially render opinions. I want to echo potentially, although I'm putting my governance hat on, I think this board should decide from a corporate perspective what advice it wants to get and from whom it should get it and when it should get it. But I also want to say, I think echoing part of what the chair said, like, not here to say, hey, what the, super glad when anybody volunteers for the town. Respectfully, it seems a little bit like the select board wandered some folks into traffic. And would have been great to chat about it beforehand.
And then just look at the Hanover Finance Committee, right? The mission on their website is that it's appointed by the resident, their appointed resident committee to advise on financial matters of the town, the Hanover School District, and jointly with the Norwich Finance Committee as the Dresden Finance Committee, the Dresden School District. So that's why we've always had this hole, because there has never been, well, it was, pointed out in the history, it's been a long time since there's been a Norwich Finance Committee. I actually did do the one, I think it was maybe the one in 2020, where it had nothing to do with the school. It was with Homer Drajman and supposed to help the town work on some of the designated fund issues, and we spent a lot of time focused on policies, because that's what they wanted, was all these finance policies. So we met night after night reviewing policies, and then I think it just kind of frankly disbanded because I don't know who the person that was left, who was still standing, you know?
I think it may have been, Russ. He was still there. He was the remaining person when, the rest of us were appointed.
Okay, he was not when I was transferred, so that was a long time, that was pre-my school board. I guess one question for, and again, I think is an overall comment here is, Michael just pointed out, we definitely don't want this to be contentious. At least as a chair, like I think, you know, obviously it's an open book and we want to make sure that the town has input on our budgets and, you know, I used to run the budget committee. And again, we would never want to give people the sense that somehow we're making budgets and we want to keep it all, you know, behind the curtain of the Vermont education funding system or something that no one can understand. But I think this is now running into how do we form this committee properly? I guess the first question is, I guess to ask is, given the fact that the Hanover Finance Committee exists, you know, are we obligated if there is a Norwich Finance Committee that wants to be formed, and there's residents that would like to serve on it, are we obligated to interact with that committee and at least maybe re-engage with an MOU and go through maybe a process where, because the Hanover Finance Committee, I mean, does the Hanover School Board have, do you know? If the Hanover School Board has any, how they choose the members? I see Tony's on it as a school board rep. And then you've got Carrie and Carrie Callan was one I was trying to think
Right,
of, Kari Asmus, they're the two that kind of, have always come to our meetings at the Dresden level and spend a lot of time, because Carrie, both of them were also school board members, they've got a whole ton of experience. And I see the other folks on it.
So Tony retired from our board, so we have a new person, Renee Sullivan, and it was a board chosen representative from the Hanover School Board to be part of the Hanover Finance Committee.
Okay, it's just, but not actually part, so that, is she not listed here then?
It doesn't.
Oh, so she's gonna be, yeah, that's right.
She's gonna be
not
Tony.
with us, so she's gonna replace Tony. And again, so I think the first question might be is, are we obligated to, and do we want to move forward with pursuing a Norwich Finance Committee in general, as far as the school board goes? And I don't 100% know the answer to that. Neil?
So I will weigh in with my own personal thing. I do think a finance committee in Norwich is a worthwhile thing, especially if it's properly staffed and, you know, has some folks that are really engaged in the work of both, you know, just with the select for the school board. I think the situation that we find ourselves in is, I think, you know, I think that the select board, perhaps inadvertently, made a step a little bit too far in the appointment of the body and then giving them, or essentially telling them that they had purview of the school budgets. I really think what needs to happen is that we should reach out to the select board, reignite those discussions over the MOU. We've got MOU, you know, the previous MOU language available, so we're not starting from scratch. But I think that if we're gonna have a finance committee that's got purview over both select board and school budgets, that both bodies need to have some role in the appointment of the members to that committee. And I would encourage, I guess what I would suggest to this board is that maybe we have the chair reach out to the select board with that and see what the reaction is and see if we can move forward.
And I think the only other thing I would say here too is obviously we're a little bit smaller than the Hanover board. And so that means one more set of meetings. So one of us, like Brian or Neil, would then now be attending. We would now be part of the Norwich Finance Committee, and I'm not so sure.
So if I can comment on that, I think Hanover has a structure for appointing members to their finance committee. We do not need to have that same structure, right? So historically, on this side of the river, we had an elected finance committee. And it was elected at the time that I believe that the articles of agreement with Dresden were signed, right? So that was the structure that we knew at the time that we entered into those articles of agreement with Dresden. It just specified take the Hanover Finance Committee, combine it with the Norwich Finance Committee, and you've got a Dresden Finance Committee. The issue comes is that the way that we had been populating our finance committee turned out to not be legal. Right,
Because
so
of
we've
what?
got an opportunity now to figure out then, if it needs to be an appointed body, how should those appointments happen? And we can determine that on our side of the river. You could use Hanover as a model if you wanted to, but in no way are we required to adopt the same structure that Hanover has for their finance committee.
Did you recall, Neil, when this, the previous MOU, what it had envisioned as far as the size of the Norwich Finance Committee and whether there was a school member, board member on it? I was just looking at
think that
this.
we did have some language in there. I just don't remember it off the top of my head.
I mean, a thought or a question, which is, I'm just looking at the SAU 70 is 4 school boards, of which Norwich is one of them. The board's primary responsibility is the legislation, development, and maintenance of district policies and working with the superintendent and building administration in the crafting of a budget to deliver and defend to the voters. And I guess my question is to set all of them up for success as well as all of us, is what is the role that a finance committee plays versus us if this is what we're supposed to do, and what role does the select board play in the school board budget? Like, is that part of their, what is their purview? And just there's a lot, our time is all really valuable. And so like, let's not make, like, where should everyone's time be allocated appropriately? So we're not doing triple work on something, that's all. Again,
No, that's good
I
point.
agree, like anyone who's willing to support town things is really awesome. So, say that.
And that, the MOU was in the, and I read your, well, trust me, I did, but the MOU that we had was, what happened to that MOU?
It was
Is that
originally.
what you sent me? It's
It was originally executed, right? We had a finance committee for a couple of years.
Okay, was it operating under this MOU?
I believe it was the one that I attached to the email. I just shared that email with the rest of the board members just tonight. And then, membership in the committee dwindled. We were unsuccessful in finding people that were willing to serve on the committee, and so the select board made the unilateral decision to back out of the MOU, which they had the perfect right to do because that was the language that was in the MOU. It said either party could withdraw from the MOU at any time.
Right.
So they were perfectly within their rights to do that. And since then, though, we have had no further discussions on, re-engaging in the MOU, and it just came as a little bit of a surprise. The select board just decided to appoint a finance committee and then apparently give them authority to oversee school budgets.
To answer Gina's question, so is, in that charge or were like through tasks and whatnot, I think was what you're,
And well, just I think
so.
it's, there's a committee, there's a select board, there's a Norwich School Board. It's like, what is the purview of each organization and who's responsible for what? And let's make sure we're being clear on roles, this is what I coach everybody on. What are the roles and responsibilities of the people in these things? So we all are clear and we're not creating chaos or confusion or too many people doing the same work.
Or unnecessary problems.
Yeah,
And if it helps, in the email that I forwarded to all of you guys tonight, there was both an MOU and a charge. And that charge covered many of the items that you just were talking about.
So,
It was very much, and again, kind of having watched the Hanover Finance Committee, because we do see Carrie and the folks come to our meetings just prior to budget time. And again, reviewing things. And they actually are going to the they actually are giving their approvals. I mean, there is a bit of a, over there's a bit of a stressful moment, right? When that committee shows up and if they decide they don't like something, right? I mean, we just kind of we're eating our popcorn as Norwich members. It doesn't really matter, but like that is what happens over there. And they are, if they don't like something, they will say so. Yes, Michael, sorry, Lucy, you listen first.
yeah, I just, another question before we kind of do some problem solving is, it seems as if the Dresden Finance Committee, from the charge and from the past history, has consisted of Hanover and Norwich Finance Committee members. There has not been a Norwich Finance Committee, so there has not been Norwich representation on that Dresden Finance Committee. So I just kind of want to also point out that if this does happen, it does have implications for the Dresden Finance Committee as well, because it seems as if this committee would combine with Hanover to be part of the Dresden. And so it just like, there's another layer of this as well, so that,
Well, to that
Yeah.
point, like, just so you know, now, obviously, I think what you probably knew is that if part of this charge, if it is, and again, the Hanover Finance Committee I just read, and they state us that every year that they make us aware that obviously there is no Norwich counterparts, right? So they're very, but that would also be extending the work. It's not just reviewing the Norwich budget, but it's also reviewing the Dresden budget, which is obvious, well, not obviously, but it's the middle school and the high school budgets, right? Which are two other big budgets, much bigger than ours.
which I don't think that said, or did it, it didn't, yeah, so the charge didn't mention Dresden,
Oh, it
which,
did.
oh, it did, okay,
Thank you.
okay.
I can summarize where I'm at, Mr. Chairman, in 3 quick points. One, I'm supportive broadly of the Finance Committee as a matter of good governance to help voters understand the workings of the town and the school board. 2, very much support what Gina said about roles and goals. I've had my own observations, when this happens over on the Hanover side. And, you know, what's the line between advice and veering into our lane as school policymakers? And so I think clearly delineating what the roles are and the responsibilities are, and having it be co-produced by the select board and the school board would be a good thing. 3, it's early in the school board season. I think we're at the risk of belaboring this topic. So what is the action step that we can take to move forward here?
We need to move
All
forward.
right, so I think the action step, I think is what Neil suggested, which I will reach out to
Mary,
the select board and basically pretty much summarize what you just said, which is that, you know, if we're gonna move forward with this, I think we need to redo the MOU, come up with a settlement charge, give the team that's volunteered to do this clear roles and responsibilities as far as what they're up to. I think frankly, if we do that, at least your role for the school board is probably gonna be pretty clear.
And with gratitude for your service and
Yes.
gratitude to Neil for being the Norrisonian, and giving us a clear and workable MOU from which to start.
All right, any other items on that, Jim? Any closing, anything good?
I think that the last thing that I think just reiterates my first point is, the reason that I reached out and I came here tonight was just to understand where everything stands as of today. If there's any other MOUs, et cetera, that were out there. I wasn't specifically tasked by the select board to comment.
Oh, yeah.
And tell you, but as it was part of our charge, that was the reason that I reached out, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Great, all right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you
thanks
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
You should stay for the rest of the meeting if you're gonna be.
There's a monster
And
truck
the
around.
next time is budget.
Yeah,
Thank you.
see you later.
Okay, I'll move on to our next item here, the VSBIT and the VEHI proxies. Sometimes these things are new to me. So these are the annual. Like a share.
Oh,
Yes, what are these,
so every year coinciding with the annual VSBA and VSA conference, VSBIT and VEHI also hold their annual meetings. As members of both VSBIT and VEHI, our board is allowed 1 vote at those annual meetings. And these proxy agreements then basically allow this board to designate a board member to vote as the proxy at both of these annual meetings.
Right.
Ideally, the proxy should go to a board member who plans on attending these meetings,
Just the annual question.
which I will bring up again. And this time around, the location of the annual conference has changed. It will be in Burlington this year, on October 29th and 30th. These meetings, I believe, will probably be the morning of the 30th, I'm guessing.
It says the 30th, it doesn't say the time, but it just said the 30th.
Typically, it's early morning on the 30th, where the conference actually gets started.
Do we have any volunteers that would like to be our proxy?
I can't get the day off, so sorry, guys.
It's a Thursday, Friday, is that what the dates are?
It's a Wednesday, Thursday.
It's a Wednesday night, Thursday. Good, I am planning on attending, but I didn't want to take that opportunity away from any other board member who was also planning on attending.
And I will try to attend this year. I think I did, I did years ago. Okay, so Neil, if you want to be the proxy again, since you will definitely be there. That probably makes the most sense again. It sounds like at least Michael, I think you.
Yeah.
You did right, yeah.
I can be there Wednesday night, but I can't be there during the day. So, yeah.
All right.
29th is my mid-wedding anniversary, so, but if it's on the 30th, and I just feel bad that Neil always takes everything for our board, so I'm happy to help if it's needed, but if you're already planning to go and you're
Yeah,
excited
this
to go,
is,
then.
yes, I'm excited to go.
Yeah.
But I will say that these two meetings are, low impact and typically, I wouldn't say low importance, but the items being voted on every year are typically just approval of the minutes from the prior year's meeting.
Oh, okay.
So, in my history, I've only in the 10+ years that I've been doing this, there was only 1 year where there was an important vote in one of these meetings, and, I don't believe that it's gonna be happening again this year, so you're not missing out on much. What I would suggest, though, Chair, is that later on in the agenda, there should be a vote to select a particular board member as the proxy for both of these meetings. And then we need to record that vote with both VSBIT and VEHI, so that when you arrive at the meeting, they know that you are the designated voting delegate.
Should we do that? Should we add that as a item tonight, probably, so we don't forget?
I think it would be a good idea to add it tonight.
Okay.
I just pulled up their website for the record, Wednesday, October 29th from 3 to 8, and Thursday, October 30th from 8 to 4, with these proxies being on the 30th, so.
So why don't in our business for action, why don't we have a review of each of those? Professional office now.
I don't know about that.
Why don't we add one more item where we can keep it as a separate if you want, there's no sense. We'll do.
Yeah, I would keep it as a separate motion, just so that we can reference that for VEHI and VSBIT if they want to know who was designated.
So a motion to appoint our representative for.
Yeah,
proxy.
that's a typo.
And when we make the motion, somebody can appoint Neil as the proxy.
Will do.
Okay. All right, so we're on to our budget guidelines already. As well as, looks like Teresa, you already got a quick model going. We actually have not had our first meeting.
Correct.
So Teresa, we very kindly put last year's budget guidelines in there. Teresa also put in a quick model. So in a minute, Teresa, why don't you can give us a quick review of the quick model and also the meeting timeline for everybody. Just to reiterate, Neil and I, right, are the members of the finance committee for Norwich. I think, Michael, you were a little bit in and out last year, I think as the third member.
Yeah, I
This year.
believe I'm a member of the budget committee emeritus at this point.
Right.
Right, I was briefly part of it, we posed a serious scheduling challenge to get there.
So I think it'll probably be Neil and myself as the two primary members. I would welcome you if you want to come to any meetings to,
Got it.
yeah, it's always helpful. We do need to do the guidelines again, Neil. I guess we can maybe. The guidelines with the Vermont situation always confound me a bit. I think. We would definitely want guidelines. I personally think there's probably something very similar to what we put out last year, because our situation really hasn't changed much as far as. I mean, the situation at the state level has changed a lot, obviously, because of what was just passed. But it actually hasn't changed at all with regards to our situation and kind of the long-term uncertainty. I think last year was talking a bit, and feel free to weigh in here, but I think as far as what we're looking at, Sean, for this next year, what we had talked about a little bit, I think is just getting some input from Teresa as far as whether there's some bigger capital needs for the building, but I think in talking to Teresa at our planning meeting, that it seems like most of the ongoing kind of annual expensed items for building a plant are sufficient kind of on an ongoing basis. There's nothing huge that's coming down the pipe. What is huge though is something like the roof and whatnot. So we were gonna talk about that as far as whether we need to increase the budget. So I think that would probably be the one thing that would maybe change the budget guidelines versus last year, because last year the budget guidelines are pretty much kind of status quo capital needs or building improvements. I'll call it capital's the wrong term for it. Building improvements, maintenance, projects, right? In that kind of 100,000 number that is in there.
Right, and that's what we've been discussing in the summer.
Yes.
We had met and spent a couple hours at least, in every room, I think, going around here and taking notes and different projects that needed to be done. Some that were done over the summer and stuff, but this ongoing, regular maintenance and stuff like that, that we need to really start targeting. And stuff, and certainly the roofs, each of the districts are, and that's one of those big, but until we really I don't have a full, picture in the serious, like the, how much of a big project it would be right at this one moment. So that's gonna be critical to get as soon as possible.
So I'll let you get into the quick mile in a minute, but I think at this point, this is not a discussion for tonight, but at our first meeting of the finance committee, which we will have, I think, right before our next meeting, before our next school board meeting, we'll schedule one. And the purpose of that meeting will really be to put together the budget guidelines to approve that. Michael?
Yeah, I just, very briefly tend to agree with your assessment of the relationship between our budget and the political situation. There are different facts, but the level of uncertainty remains extremely high, which puts significant pressure on us as a school board. It's similar to what's going on in healthcare in Vermont. And so I would urge us to say, okay, number one, what's the budget we think we need to effectively run the school? Having figured that out, two, where does that budget fit in within the political landscape as we presently understand it? I worry about those things commingling and it being very difficult to pick a strategic direction. And so I want to keep those things. And I just happen to think with both education and healthcare, if you start making decisions for purely political purposes, there is no end to it. I actually think this board has done a wonderful job navigating that uncertainty over the last couple of years. And I just want us to keep our eye on the ball of like, hey, what does it take to run a great school? And then, okay, how does it fit in a really volatile political landscape?
Yeah, just, someone with a better eye for detail than myself, might want to go over the dates. Because there's a lot of disagreement with the day and date for a lot of the meetings, like Monday is not November 10th. Or Monday is November 10th and it says Tuesday, November 10th. So just just.
I'll go
Yeah.
back and double check that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, I do it all the time, so that's why I noticed it.
I would just change the date and not realize with the.
Right.
The day of the week.
Right, yeah.
Plus one, but Michael said, looking on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think if everyone's aligned with that, you and I will get together, I think, at some point before our next meeting, to put that together, either, we probably should do it in person.
No, there's already been, I think the budget committee meetings have already been scheduled, and I think invitations have been sent out, at least I saw something come through earlier today.
Oh, sorry, I didn't check my email today.
No, that's okay.
Okay,
So I think there's something on the books already, but if there's not, there's room.
It's, yeah.
You're talking about the guideline?
Yeah, But the guideline, we typically draft the guidelines in
September
that
3rd.
first budget meeting, that first Norwich Budget Committee meeting. Yeah, those.
Oh, September 3rd, sorry.
Yeah, September 3rd.
Okay. So Thursday, August 14th on the calendar.
That's for something else.
What's tonight?
No,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, that's okay, regular school board meeting, I see, to discuss, okay.
Yeah, just to talk about it.
Perfect. All right, so Wednesday, September 3rd is when all the action happens. Okay, back to this, so Teresa, do you want to go through the quick model, is it way too preliminary for that?
I will run through, Jamie has definitely, I've been working with Jamie on all this, obviously running through my first round here and everything else, but working through this, basically, it's just pulling forth the required, anticipated, the health cost and everything else. Projections is probably the better word I should use right now, the projections on each of these certain steps and stuff that teachers may move or others, as far as the wages and the benefits go. And again, there's assumptions down below regarding expenditures related to the SAU, special education out of district based on needs and students that we already know about. And debt service, again, what we already know. And then as we get down to the bottom, you'll see some notes down at the very, very bottom that I know that we're going into negotiations this year again. So those projections are not in there at this time. And so if you're kind of looking at the percentage change, increase the, of about 224,000, 2.71%, as it sits as a quick model.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments on that?
Just a thank you to all who are involved.
As it relates to the budget, and, so I'm gonna go a little off topic here, but as far as negotiations, when does, because that's gonna be also impacting our budget this year, the negotiation, when is that?
So technically, they need to kick off, I think, on or before October 1st.
Okay,
I think that's what's in the contracts. Certainly, reaching out and starting sooner is always better. So if our colleagues on the support staff and the teachers bargaining units are willing to get going early in this budgeting season, that's certainly would be helpful.
I mean, if things go well, will we have a contract before we approve the budget?
That is always my desire, every time I enter into
It's possible.
is to have a contract,
We're doing better.
ratified prior to the budget going before the voters, early enough so that we can get it in the budget, because budget friendly. There are factors that sometimes mean that doesn't happen. But that has always been our goal on heading into any round of negotiations. So to get them done, so that means having them done by, ratified by early January.
Good. Okay. So that precludes, does anybody have any comments on the budget? No, Teresa, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to our business requiring action. We should be able to do that. Let's see. Ready?
Little circle thing.
The arrow.
It worked.
So,
One
Lisa?
quick question, yeah, sorry. I noticed that we have appoint a truancy officer under business requiring action, and we did not discuss it. I mean, it's Greg again, so I don't know if we need a discussion, but I just wanted to point that out.
yes, I think you're about to say that because that was not part of our thing, but I think everyone's good with that. Sean,
I think that because he's not here, we should do it fast.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, we also have to take the VSBIT vote.
Right.
Correct.
So I guess, if you're ready, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve B, C, D, F, and G. And we can deal with the truancy officer and the VSBIT.
We haven't
later
even
after.
H.
What is that?
Lauren updated it for us.
No, we're gonna do that separately.
Oh, we are gonna do it separately, okay.
Yeah, so we'll do E and H separately.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I make a motion to approve B, C, D, F, and G.
Second, Gina, all those in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Okay, do I have a motion for item E? Michael?
I move to appoint Greg Bagnato as the truancy officer for the 2025-2026 school year as presented.
second,
Seconded by Lisa, all those in favor? All right, overwhelming support. That's been approved, and then item H. Gina,
I move to approve my colleague Neil Odell as the Norwich VSBIT Proxy.
second, Lisa, all those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you, Neil and Greg. Okay, report of the chair. I did not come up with a great report tonight, but here we are kicking off the season, end of the summer, time to check our emails again. I do apologize. I was not the best at checking my emails a couple times this summer. And yeah, we're about to rapidly get into our school year, but at least looking at the floors and everything looks shiny, and it looks like it's gonna quickly get active around here again, so that will be very exciting, and starting all our meetings going into the fall. That's really all that I have to report. Oh, and yes, sorry. And at the SAU level, very happy to have Lauren next to me here, who unfortunately is replacing Robin for the night, because Robin had some family business to take care of. She was very apologetic, and it sounds like things are moving well with the SAU office. We had our first policy meeting with Robin, and so obviously no entities here, but thank you very much for coming to our meeting tonight, and we look forward to working with you on this side of the river.
thank you.
So,
Same.
all right, thank you, Lisa, for that.
Sorry.
No,
It's
it's
like,
very appropriate. On to Sean for the principal's report.
First, I just want to say that I'm really happy to go into the school year with Robin and Lauren. I think we're very fortunate that the two of them have stepped up to the role of superintendent and director of instruction and curriculum. And I'm really happy about it. We had a great retreat at Robin's camp, and it was nice to meet as the leadership team in person all together before the year started, just to get ourselves off to a good start. It's great. As far as MCS, our enrollment is at 320. This is the time of year where it does change daily, so tomorrow that could be up or down a little bit. We're thrilled to have kids come back. It's a little lonely here in the summertime, and it's nice to have that kid energy. We have 3 new goals that I put in here. I'm not gonna go over them, but I will tell you that the first one, we're still adjusting to the formatting here. That first little paragraph, our first goal is to improve our educational support team process. And then go around positive school climate and one around instructional effectiveness. Greg and I have been working this summer to do our in-service preparation. We moved 5 of our 10 in-service days to the beginning of the school year. And last year that was overwhelmingly a positive for staff to come in. It gives them plenty of time for us to do what we need to do, for them to do some classroom time. For any parents that might have kids that need to come in a little bit earlier and see this building or meet the teacher that's available. It just allows us to have a softer start to the school year. We've been planning that out. A little hiring update. We are almost fully hired for. We're still looking for an education assistant. So if you know of anyone who would like to work in that role, we would love to have them. And I want to highlight our safety committee. So we have, I'd say in the last year, have a group of people that have come to the table and really are interested in safety at our school. And we took that committee out of our Wednesday committee time and made it its own entity that meets during the school day. And the committee came together this summer. We spent the day together. We looked through our safety protocols to align them with what our neighbors on the other side of the river are doing. some of the feedback we got from two law enforcement entities was that it's really hard to respond when different schools have called their things different names. So
Yeah.
you might be responding to an intruder drill at one school, which is the same as the lockdown at another, and not be on the same page. Last year, we did a great job as an SAU coming together and saying, okay, we're gonna at least call these all the same thing. And this year, we've taken that one step further to say, all right, our protocols are gonna be similar in both schools. So our safety committee worked on doing that this summer and have worked part of our in-service time into a presentation for staff to kind of solidify that. Also, we have a teacher who has taken on scheduling all of our drills, coordinating it to make sure that they follow the state guidelines, and is really invested in that, which is great. Other than that, we have had a lot of projects being done here very recently to get our school up and running. You should take a walk down the pre-K and art room hallway. Tony and I met and decided that each summer we would build into our budget painting of one wing in the classrooms and the hallways. And that was the one that we chose this summer. Pre-K rooms not only got new flooring, but they also, those rooms were all painted, and the hallway was painted, and it just looks, makes the overall feel more positive and cheery for kids. Other than that, if you have any questions.
Lisa?
Yeah, just quickly, you said that you were just looking for an EA, but your report also says you're looking for a long-term sub. Did you fill the long-term sub position or?
That's a good catch. We are also looking for a long-term sub for third grade starting in October.
Okay.
And going until January.
And then this, I'll put this under safety committee summer work. I used the facilities on the way in the door and noticed that there is a tube extending from the ceiling into a bucket in the girls' restroom. Is there a leak or what's going on?
Okay, so one of our hopes is that we fix our roof. That has been that way since I've been here. There's some kind of funky tile in the ceiling that catches the rain water that comes down, takes it through that pipe and pipes it into one of the toilets. My hope is that we will, when we're thinking about roofing, be able to remedy that. I'm really excited because the roof over my office is getting replaced and we can.
You don't have the bucket in the middle anymore?
Well, actually, it was going to be a kiddie pool.
Okay,
That is.
thank you. I didn't mean to get off track, but maybe we should all use the facilities more often.
It's a water feature.
Are we, where do we stand right now with the pre-K enrollment? Are we fully enrolled for that?
Pre-K is full, okay, full session. And I think they're still ended up with a waiting list of about 8.
Wow.
Do people pay? I should know the answer to this. Do people pay? No. Wish that had been around 15 years ago.
Things to say that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And remind me again, this is maybe a silly question, we got 5 sections of 3 now, so there's last year we only had 4, didn't we?
Yeah.
5 classes with 3 sections versus 4, so does that mean we have another, sure, how are we doing that?
Last year, we had a teacher on maternity leave.
Okay,
And we had doubled up a class and she came back later than anticipated. She extended her leave. But when she came back, we did split those kids back out.
okay,
She did some intervention work. Otherwise, it would have been another section.
got it. Okay. All right, any questions for Sean? Thank you, Sean.
Go get him, Tiger.
I agree.
On to the superintendent's report. Lauren, do you have any, I know you've got your other report here. Did you want to?
I'll be
read-
brief on Robin's behalf because you have it in front of you, so you can read it at your leisure. Just to say that she really wanted to be here this evening, and express that to me, but appreciated this space to be able to take care of what she needed to take care of. That she felt the pace and energy that comes with filling this new role. And she's met it from my observations, just with a lot of joy, a lot of excitement, and a lot of great organization. I'm already learning a lot from her. She held our new staff orientation, which I also highlight in my report. She gave you a bit of an update on title grant allocations, and that will be in my wheelhouse moving forward. So starting next month, you'll be hearing more from me about those allocations and the projects that I'm working to help support with the administration here through those title funds. And then we welcomed at Hanover High School new staff for across the SAU. And took them on a little bus tour that I heard was great. I heard that Sean just knocked it out of the park as usual on our bus tours. And that she looks forward to being back with you all next time around.
So those were new kids, what came out of the ball, there's a bunch of kids being led around that looked like they were new students or something, is that what you're just referring to?
So two things happened. The one that I'm
There's a bunch of
referring
kids that
to.
were like, it looked like it was like a campus tour or something, so college, and I was like, is this?
Yeah, so we had, the new staff orientation was on August 6th, and that brought all of the new staff that were able to attend to the high school from 8:30 to 10:30-ish.
Okay.
There have also been some summer camps grant funded at the high school, bringing in some, some folks from ninth grade, from 8th grade going to 9th grade, to be able to start to make some connections as they move into high school.
Okay. Great, okay, and while you're on the spot.
Let's do it. Similarly, I presented to you my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions about it. This was an exciting 14th day in the position, and so if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But getting up to speed on grants, everything title related, working with Chair Keeney as well as Superintendent Steiner to go through the results of the survey that was conducted by our community with our community. I'm working on planning all of our K-12 meetings across the schools, and we'll update you with some plans on that next month. And I've been helping the transition across the river for my colleagues there. Thanks to Ryan Schoonover, who has done a ton of work with Assembly to get things up and running and teach me how to do things like, add things at the last minute. Working in Frontline, which is one of the systems that we use to record all of our information around evaluation and supervision to make sure that our forms are up to date and reflect the needs of all of our districts. And then I also mentioned the new staff orientation as well. So it's been busy, and I anticipate it will just continue to get busier. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
What's the comment is, and it's less Norwich focused, more the whole school district, is we have a lot of people in new roles, even if they're not new to the district, and just maybe to offer our support and thought partnership as you are in new roles, if you need that kind of help, because that's an exciting time and also can be full of challenge and fear. And so just, I think everyone's really wants to support all of our leaders to be as effective as possible. So I say that.
Thank you.
I'm a coach, so I'm
Thank
just
you.
being a coach.
I felt that. So
Michael, first, did you get on Assembly? Because you and I were, I think, competing for the
Oh, yeah.
last two
I'm on
slots.
I'm
I'm
on
gonna note
Assembly.
that said from Ryan.
Being 4
You and
months early,
Michael
it's
are the
simple.
only two.
Yeah,
So you're on that.
right on time. Oh, yeah, it's it's up right now.
Now, can I ask a question?
So, just quickly, I mean, something from this seat, right, the governance seat. I have very much appreciated Robin's work trying to align curriculum and get people and teams aligned and gathered moving forward. As someone who's not an education professional, it just seems like it's really good, well-structured work. So as you go into your new role, is there like a well delineated plan of this is what we're supposed to do this year? And I'm ready to execute it, or is it, hey, you and Robin have to do a lot of discussion about what, and I'm asking curiosity, it's not my place to make those decisions, but it seems like this has been a strength the last couple of years, so I'm just curious how you're viewing it going into this role.
Definitely. So Robin sent out a survey to folks last year to get feedback around how K-12s have been operating. Robin and I went over that survey to see any themes, any actionable space, any changes that we had to make. And then Robin said, this is now yours. So, having participated on K-12 committees, facilitated, been part of the collaboration that we've had between Ray and Marion Cross, I felt pretty equipped with the knowledge that I already had about K-12s, together with the feedback that we got from that survey, to start making a plan moving forward. I think what's exciting about this year is that we have done so much to get our curriculum documented, to get these teams together, to begin to just build that community that we need. That we are starting to see this year that we can differentiate a little bit more. So there are some teams that are further in this, but are really curious about that. And I'm able to work with the facilitator for that K-12 to say, what supplies do you need? What materials do you need? How can I support you? And that's been an exciting move as I'm planning these K-12s this year. But it's certainly a continuation of the work that has been done to capitalize on all of those pieces.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, just an observation, and I'm sure you know this because you've been swimming in these waters for a while. But from a board perspective, it feels as if a lot of time the friction and the issues happen in the transition years, where the middle school teams think that they've communicated something to the elementary school teams about what's needed at the middle school, and then it turns out that that wasn't as well communicated as they thought it was, and definitely going from the middle school to the high school in terms of, are the kids prepared for instance honors math classes in a way that is helpful? And I just want to say that as an observer, I've noticed that being a theme, and it feels like that might be a place to put a little attention. And I don't know whether it's just a communication issue or whether it's an actual, content or a philosophical thing, but it does feel like at the board level, when we get people coming in to talk about things that they wish were different, that seems to be where they land.
Thanks for the insight.
And again, not in a bad way, just,
Well, there's real opportunity when we have the ability to meet on a monthly basis, at least, to build in time for those conversations as needed. So thank you.
With that, on to Teresa, business manager's report.
All right, I do have uploaded.
Sorry, administrator.
I've uploaded my report also, I'll just give some highlights, but, just the business department itself, we're just a little short-handed. We have it since May 1st. We not only have the front desk administrative position open, but, the newly titled, assistant BA position. We had done interviews, we hired somebody. About 2 weeks in, she resigned, so that didn't work out. So it's a bit of a struggle to be juggling all of it right now and everything else. And we have the potential of being down one more third person for 2 months. So we're really scrambling to do interviews, which seems like never ending, to get people in. There's various reasons, that we haven't had any luck, but I'm hopeful and optimistic that they'll turn around and everything else. So we just, as we said, we just keep swimming and just keep doing everything you can. And we're trying to make it all work and make sure that we meet the goals that we need to meet. Everything else in the HR department, they're steady onboarding everybody, that all the new employees and stuff like that, and getting them set up and benefits and stuff. So that's going well. Transportation, I've met a couple times this summer with Mike Goodett over at Student Transportation for multiple reasons, and some are just understanding the flow of what's been being done at the district level for getting kids in routes, sort of like we were building our own routes. And I couldn't understand that, but I mean, routes are kind of established and they change based on students coming and going, so they shouldn't vary that much. But we're trying to just kind of speed up and better off the process, because we're just shooting them pieces of paper as they come through, as people sign up on the ridership. And we're just shooting that to him, but he gets a lot of email too, so things can get messed. So we're just trying to fix those processes. One of the things that we discussed was the timing of students being dropped off here and picked up after school. At this point, we're, I'm gonna work with Mike and Sean, and we got and I think it'll be the first couple of weeks or so, see how it pans out again and really I have to come over and be here to see what it really is happening. Because student transportation doesn't believe that the time frame is the same as the time frame that's being experienced. So we have to work that out. So that's something that needs to definitely be worked out and everything else, is students can't be here when there's no staff. And that appears to be somewhat of an issue. The other big issue that we've had in, when I was at the BA conference this summer, transportation topic, Christopher from, the New Hampshire DMV anyhow, I know this is Vermont, but it still kind of applies in the sense of, our open ridership, because that's being questioned. Because we lock down our schools and you're not coming in unless you're let through the door, locked door, but we open our bus door to anybody standing on the corner. And they could look like a student, they may not be a student, so the potential is there for the safety. So that's been kind of brought up as to whether or not we need to address that.
Three questions. So one was is the staffing, just so we're kind of aware, especially at the next Dresden meeting. So just so I'm clear, so the finance director position, is that now the assistant? So are you down one person or two?
Down 3.
Or three?
Definitely down one full person.
Okay,
which
because
is-
the finance director position is now the new assistant VA position?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, so that position has been open since I kind of moved into, kind of been doing both since May 1st.
okay, so you're down that position and the front desk position, and then,
And then we have our accounts payable person that will be out, pretty much starting next week until November.
Is there like temporary staffing or just like temp staffing? Can we, like, what can we?
That's what we're looking into
Creative,
for,
yeah.
at least for that one position in accounts payable.
Yeah.
Like we can get somebody in to do that as a temp. The assistant VA one is we have a couple potentials, one very, very promising. So I'm hopefully that in this next week that we'll fill that. The interview this next week.
and then on
No, go ahead.
the transportation, just so we can answer your questions, you might have someone that says, what's the alternative to an open ridership having?
It would be that the bus drivers themselves actually more or less like currently, we only send addresses to student transportation.
Okay.
They don't get student names, so the bus drivers don't even know who belongs. They get to know students, obviously, we already know that happens almost immediately, they really get to know the kids based on the stops. But at the same time, there could be anybody standing at that stop.
And they pick that person up.
And yes, and because of our policy, they just can get on the bus. And because we don't have just elementary riding on the bus and then the high school level at the separate, which a lot of districts might do that, but because we're combined, there's the potential that again. So that was just brought up in that meeting. but-
Do most other districts do they have a list of kids?
Yes, they have a roster that says these are the students, and then if you're not gonna be riding on your bus, and you're gonna be potentially, maybe you're going to a friend's house, there's gonna be some kind of note. It's gonna be at the school level that rider knows and that bus driver knows or something, or if a bus stop changes. Again, the transportation company usually and the bus drivers know this.
And do the kids have they would show their school ID or something the first couple of days? before the
It would
bus
be
driver-
ideal, like if they have student IDs, it's
That's how they do
absolutely ideal. And everything else for that potential, yeah.
And then the time frame thing that you're talking about, what is that? Should
Sean,
that's at the end of the day?
I'll defer to, Sean will explain it better.
So our staff start the earliest our staff can start here is 7:45. Our buses sometimes drop kids off at between 7:30 and 7:45. So right now we pay a staff member to come early to supervise those students who come early. And in the afternoon, our staff can leave at 3:10. That's the end of their day. And our buses don't typically get here until 3:30, 3:40. So Greg and I do bus duty every day. which is fine on all days except for Wednesday, when we have this great time to work with our staff. And he and I are doing bus duty up until, I want to say sometimes they're a little later, so maybe quarter till. So I had asked Teresa, since she's new in this position, maybe we could look at that and just thinking about kids, that's a long day. For us, we have to come at 7:30 and stay until 3:30, 3:45.
In SCA, my conversations with Mike is, he's under the impression that there's a 5-minute window possibly, and I'm like, it's not how I understand it. And, clearly, if we're paying somebody to come or stay late, then we have more proof that that's how it's happening in reality and stuff, but, so yeah, so that's something, and I got everybody's, the school start times and this and that, what time, because some of the schools, like years, things like that, or Ray, even though it starts, like you guys are there 10 minutes, you get the kids lined up. So they gotta be lined up 10 minutes before it actually starts, so that would be backing the bus into, needs to be at the school by this time in order for that to happen. So trying to jog those times, I was like, some of it seems like it's infeasible to meet all those needs. And to get the kids here or there or back over here in that little time frame to meet those bells. So that is something that definitely, we're gonna address.
And it seems to be the 100% because of the issue, because they collect all the kids and then they have the bus that sits here for 1 second and everyone switches over, then they take the high school and middle school kids on different buses across the river, and then the afternoon.
They don't all switch.
They don't all switch, but they have to get on the right bus, because one bus goes to RMS, one bus goes to the high school, and I think one bus might do both, but.
And then we used to be a late bus.
My kids' bus went all to all 3 schools, so I just think it's different for each school.
Right. So that might, but you're aware of all
Also
that.
figure
Teresa.
out though, is how it's playing out.
Michael's great.
I was just gonna, good discussion. I'm not sure that this is a problem for the board to solve. I wanted to go back to the staffing piece only because I think, one of the things that I know that takes up a lot of time in the fall is negotiations. And I wonder if what we might ought to consider is hiring in, whether it be an attorney or somebody else to assist us with the negotiations piece of things and maybe alleviate some of that off of the VA. And others, because that can chew up a fair amount of time. So just a consideration for this body.
After that, glad you said that, because I've been asking about the negotiations and how they go and stuff like that, because my experience in other districts were that we did work directly with the lawyers. And it was often that the 2 lawyers were the ones talking during the meeting, and we just talked during caucus and stuff, so, and then if we were asked to add, we would. But it's funny, and sometimes in negotiations, I don't think we've done 5 meetings, and we're like, yeah, you know, and it just.
Yeah, I may, Mr. Chairman, very much agree with that suggestion. And I think while we're doing that, we should probably have a talk at some point about roles and goals inside of negotiation, because we have a wonderful and informal vibe here in Norwich, but I found it could be confusing to our counterparty when staff members were saying things that the other side was believing that was our position. And we want to be really careful in situations like that. I agree with you. It's not our problem to solve the bus routes. I love visibility into that, but that's not what we're going to do. But we do have a fiduciary obligation in the district. And I worry greatly, like keeping the financial home fires burning is one thing. Recreating them after a collapse of staff is a totally different thing. And so like, how much risk do you perceive in these vacancies? Like, hey, we're hanging it together or we're falling down on some stuff. I just, collapse of APAR, the revenue cycle is like a big deal.
Right now, I'm not stressed at this one moment that we're gonna go downhill. I don't feel I don't feel like we're a sinking ship. And like I said, we've got a couple of interviews this week. One perspective, I definitely think is like a 99%. I feel that confident that this person is the right person. So I'm hoping that that works out. And everything else. I know that, if it doesn't, then we've definitely discussed about reaching out to a town or something to fill in, because it's really the financial end of it and the day-to-day task. Because if I'm doing those, I'm not doing my actual position stuff. It's, you know, it's hanging. So that's why it's critical to get somebody in there to do the financial end of it, pick up what they should, what that position should be and everything else. The other, the front desk, we have perspectives again. We tried to fill it a couple times, and hired somebody, but they turned it down the same second because it didn't pay enough, even though they knew. And the last question we always ask them, you're okay with the salary range, right? Yes. So then you call them back and say, hey, we'd like to offer you a job. It's not enough. So that's one area that we might have to consider. And it was brought up last week that maybe the range on there has to be a little adjusted, but I don't know how adjusted.
Yeah, I would say one additional thing, and when I say this, I want to be mindful that I am one board member. I do not speak to the board of directors. The school board rather, I don't have any power individually. I just can observe that there are a lot of people in new seats. I report to a board, I'm on a bunch of boards. The dialogue I like to have with my counterpart is when someone says, hey, is there a problem here? If the answer is yes, you just say yes. Like, I think we all have an appreciation for how hard this stuff is and how hard it is to have everybody be new all at the same time. And so like if someone comes to me and says, yeah, we have a problem here, I'm like really grateful for the feedback and genuinely curious, like how we can help. I don't think, it's okay being new to say, geez, there's a problem here. So I don't know, you're a seasoned professional. I don't know if you need to hear that, but in case somebody in this new leadership structure needs to hear it, like, I think it's important to have a relationship where we're really straight about it with each other about what's going well and what is not going well.
Right. And that's why I bring this up in just one, like I said, in the little newsletter, just mentioned that, yeah, it's,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
we're doing everything to try to make sure that we meet deadlines and get things done that are critical that need to get done and everything else. And what's really also good on the other side is that, in the last couple of months, it's a little bit of struggle, but at the same time, HR, finance, however we want to say it, in business or whatever, is coming together more as a team. So they're not working so independently as it was, but we're actually saying, hey, what can I do to help you? Okay, what can I do to help you? So that's really one of the great benefits that's also been coming out of this and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Maybe just a quick addition on to Michael's is my observation as a board member is we have, I guess I started it by saying we have a lot of new people. My second observation is we have no slack in our system with a lot of new people and roles. And so like, I think that as I say this, maybe for people who are working across the entire district, I want to flag that I have my yellow light is coming on around how much newness and how much, and if somebody wins the lottery, instead of saying gets hit by the bus, we're really exposed, I think, as an organization operationally. And I think we need to have some stopgap things ready to go if people are, people get sick, people's parents do things to love children, other things. So just want to say that publicly.
I'm putting on a fixer hat, which I tend to go to, so I'm owning that right now. But I'm sitting next to Lauren, and it occurs to me, and you may have already thought of this at a district level, there are a lot of very talented, tough partners who move into this area, who may be interested in doing work that gets them out into the community that isn't necessarily taxing their brain at a level that, their previous job did. I worked with a lot of those people, like at Still North Books. They just wanted to sell books for a while. So I'm wondering if that might be, if you talk to the person in charge of tech partners with the job description for the front desk person, that might be the perfect thing. I mean, the thing about a tech partner is you usually lose them after 2 years, but you might not. So, Lauren took a job with our district when she was a tech partner and she's still here. And even the business administrative position there might be somebody who was an accountant back in New York City and moved here with their partner and it might be, I don't know, it's a resource that I feel a lot of people don't look at, so.
And let's get people back.
All right. Keep us in the loop on this, Teresa, and, let us know what needs to be done, probably at the next meetings we have on the other side of the river. All right, do we need, I don't think we need an executive session, do we, Sean? Do we have any, I don't see any personnel, there's nothing in the, okay, so we can do that. All right, any other comments for our meeting? You good?
I have a suggestion for a future agenda topic. I just think, oh, sorry, did we get there?
Yes, we are now moving.
You moved us there, well done.
I've been thinking a lot about all the changes or the uncertainty that is going on with Vermont and New Hampshire, and I thought, it has been helpful when Rebecca in particular has been here, and also now that Jay is serving on that special Vermont committee.
With Rebecca.
With Rebecca, it would be worthwhile as a board to consider, should they come to this meeting, should we have like a public workshop session, I don't know what it's called, but at the appropriate times to help people be aware of what's going on. That's just one thing I want to raise.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
October meeting maybe be the best. I'm thinking, I mean, they'll probably come later.
Reach out to them. I mean, I think it's, you want to time it just right so that it's actually something of substance to talk about. And I think October would be reasonable.
October, and I mean, there is a point too, of kind of updating everyone to make sure we level set on what happened this spring, because there's a lot that happened that even those of us who are paying attention, we're not fully aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I would once again highly recommend that folks read the weekly emails from VSBIT because there's summarization in there of everything that's happened and stuff that's coming, and it's a wealth of information.
Yes. Okay, Teresa.
Sorry, I just don't wanna have you guys forget that we have.
We're
to
just signing stuff, sorry. In front of me, but I would start signing it. I'll get a pen down.
All right, with that, do I have another to adjourn?
I move to adjourn at 8:05 PM.
Lisa seconds that, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that is unanimous.
Sorry,